When you only have a little vision, and that's the problem with too many different ministries now, is that everybody's trying to build their own kingdom. You know, they get this delusion of grandeur to think that they are God's gift to the whole world, and that they have this Messiah complex. I am not the Messiah. I'm sent to proclaim the one who is the Messiah. You know, I'm grateful to God to what he has graced us to do here at Word of Faith, but listen, no one church is going to take any city. We're not big enough and strong enough to take the city. And what a slap in the face that would be to other people of God in this city. How narrow-minded and immature and presumptuous that would be of me to assume that God's grace and anointing is just on me and we the only one, and God has sent us to save the city, and if we're not here, the city is going to hell. We here and it's almost going to hell anyway. We need all the help we can get. We need brothers and sisters to rise up and to be the church and the body of Jesus Christ in the earth. My God, Jesus said, Lord, make them one. I've got a dream. Make them one, even as you and I are one, so they'll stop all of this separatism. There's a dream in this old boy here that is bigger than my own little vision, that encompasses the visions of other individuals that are young and strong enough, that have time and resources and strength and creativity to be able to do some things. It was said, you know, that the I in Apple's product, you know, the iPhone and iPod and all of this, that they said that the I stands for interactive. And we need a little interaction in the things in the kingdom of God. You know, the systems of the body are designed to work together. And no one local church is the body. We make up the body. And so you have to be able to dream dreams. You have to be able to dream dreams. There are some things that I may not ever live to fulfill in my own time, but that still doesn't stop me from dreaming. I've been to some places, some fine places, and I began to have a dream once on one of the finest college campuses that I'd ever been to. And I dreamed of a place where they'd build college universities that would have a teaching hospital on the campus. And on that very campus, I dream of their building retirement homes, so that our elders, some of our greatest resources of education, of wisdom, of experience. Wouldn't it be great to have retired engineers and retired medical doctors and retired school teachers that could mentor other folks that's in college trying to learn how to be a teacher, and they can tell them, listen, human nature does not change. Human nature does not change. It is the same, and you can learn something from this person who has given their whole life into this particular area. And then when the old person on the community, when they have a little health challenge, run them over to the university hospital. Are you listening? So that each one has something that the other one can give. I just dream about some things this is bigger than anybody's little vision. It means that a whole lot of visions have to work together in order for this dream to be able to come into manifestation. What a sense of meaning it would be for elders who have lived their life and they've been retired now and they've got great resources. I mean, retired CEOs, retired basketball players and football players that could be able to bring some people to say, listen, you're burning yourself out here, and if you really want to be able to do this well and maximize how you're able to build teams here, they can experientially be able to sometimes locate something that is off kilter in a young person's life and do what a psychiatrist might take 3 years to figure out. Because they've been in the field and they understand how this animal works. And you might say, well, they don't understand the technology. Listen, principles, are few. Policies are many, principles are few. Policies often change, principles never do. There are just some things. I don't care. When this old boy is a retired man, there'll be some things that I'll be able to teach a young whippersnapper about ministry. I don't care whether they got some, they could have a watch with the Bible on it and show videos from a ring. I don't care what kind of see, the technology, it's not even about the technology. That's a tool. I can teach them about the resource of the heart of this thing and connect them back to God's purpose and help them see where they fit in the larger scheme of things, and deliver them from the egotistical Messiah complex that they walk around thinking that they're going to conquer the world. And you ought to dream big. You ought to dream big. You ought to have big vision. I encourage that with all of my heart. You ought to dream. You ought to dream to change the world. Don't have small vision. You insult God with a small vision. You ought to dream like you're dreaming for the whole world. A small church is a church that only takes care of itself. A large church has nothing to do with the number of people that's sitting in the congregation. A large church is based on the responsibility that they take for their city. You're a large church if you said that this is our city and we are responsible. When you take responsibility, that's what makes a large church. Sometimes people about building bigger and bigger buildings, it is not based on how many you seat, it's based on how many you send. And if you send somebody out into the world to make a difference in our world. I just dream about some things. It might sound a bit far-fetched to you, but I'm just here to tell you that if somebody does not think that you sound crazy when you tell them your dream or your vision, it means that your dream is too small. Are you driven by something but don't know where it is driving you? This woman came to a well. And may I just say to you that what is worse than being driven but not knowing where you're going is to be complacent with going nowhere with the intent of going somewhere later. Procrastination comes from the Latin word pro, which means forward, and crastinus, signifying tomorrow. So this corrosive of inactivity, it deceives many people into believing that they will somehow move forward tomorrow. Isn't that crazy? When you procrastinate, somehow you think that I'm going to move forward tomorrow. I'm going to wash these dishes tomorrow. I'm going to wash the clothes tomorrow. I'm going to clean this mess up tomorrow. You're dealing with the procrastinus, where it's forward to tomorrow. You keep pushing it off on tomorrow, and you know that tomorrow never comes until you realize that the only time that you have to be able to change anything is the power of now. And if you're not working now to do something that will impact your tomorrow, tomorrow's is going to be just like today. And so, but I do want you to understand the difference here between being content and then complacent. Content means satisfied. Very simply, it means satisfied. When a person is content, you know, you eat until your heart's content. Well, maybe you shouldn't, but content means satisfied. It means satisfied. But when I hear, you don't always understand certain things, but this word content comes from the Latin word contentus, which means, get a hold of this, it means to restrain. It means to restrain. And let me explain it to you this way. I'm content with one piece of cake, but I have to restrain myself from having 3 pieces. Are you listening? It means that, you know, you have to learn to be content. You don't always know. That means that you have to learn restraint. Contentus means to restrain. It doesn't mean indulge as much as you want. It means restrain yourself. It means get some and be satisfied with what you have. You don't have to eat the whole pie at one time. Just get a slice and be content. Restrain yourself. Anybody learning anything today? You have to learn how to be content. You say, you know what? I've had 2 pieces of fried chicken. I want 2 more. But you have to resolve that I'm going to be content with what I have. I'm going to restrain myself. See, that's contentment. It's saying I don't have to have it all. It's like I've learned to restrain myself. Have you ever read this in the Bible? The love of Christ constraineth us. When you really have love, there's something that love will hold you back from saying. Don't say everything that's on your mind. You will destroy your relationships. We can't handle everything that's on your mind. You stressed out, you want to tell me everything that's on your mind and stress me out? I can't handle it. Restrain yourself. If you love me, restrain yourself. I'm just telling you, contentment is based on restraint. But there's some people that are driven. They are driven. They are never satisfied. Love is easily satisfied. Lust is never satisfied. Lust always seeks to get. Love always seeks to give. But there's a contentment in God where you don't have to have it all to be able to be satisfied. It's amazing that when you're in love, you can be satisfied so easily. I get so tickled sometimes when I see women in love and they can't even eat. They just, they done had one chicken nugget. Oh. And as soon as that love, that infatuation wears off, you're like, you want that? Content means satisfied. But complacent means contented to a fault. It means contented to a fault when you're complacent. It actually means self-satisfied and unconcerned. Self-satisfied and unconcerned. You know, we have a term for people who satisfy themselves. I don't think it's appropriate for church. I won't talk about it. But complacent means self-satisfied and unconcerned. And so I'm complacent when I see a piece of cake, but I have no appetite for it at all. Because one of the things that you'll realize is that not everybody who is starving is hungry. Did you know that if after 4 days of going without food, your body loses its appetite? You're starving, but you're not hungry. And here's the deal. God does not feed the starving, he feeds the hungry. He does not say that it's a blessing to be starving. Starving people don't have an appetite. Starving folks don't have an appetite. He says, blessed are those who do hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. So you have to have an appetite. If you have no appetite, it is a sign of sickness or disease in the body. If you have no appetite. If you have no appetite. Complacent people have accepted mediocrity, and they are unconcerned to be better or to do better because they're self-satisfied. They think that they are an end unto themselves, that they don't need anybody. Self-satisfied. Touch your neighbor and say, I know that person too. Complacent people don't want to get off of government assistance programs. That's a huge problem. Don't keep giving me handouts. Help me help myself. Here was this Syrophoenician woman, this woman at the well here. She has a thirst in her that drives her to a well. Thirst is a sign of an unmet need. There's a sign of an unmet need. And there's a story that's told. I want to share with you this Eastern story. It says, once upon a time, a merchant was vacationing in a small village. And he went to see the village market. And at one place, he saw a man with a genie, and he asked, what are you selling, my friend? The man said, my genie. He said, well, what does it do? He said, everything that you want to get done. He said, it makes the impossible possible. The man asked him, he said, then why do you want to sell it? And he said, because I have no ambitions left. And he explained that it is a wish-fulfilling genie, but it is very exhausting. He said, because the genie cannot stay idle, and all of the time it needs a new job and a new project, or otherwise it will destroy what it has created. And this man said, well, I had a lot of ambitions and a lot of jobs to be done. He said, I want to buy it. And when they reached the place where the merchant stayed, the genie said, "Now, sir, tell me what I can do for you." He says, "Your satisfaction is guaranteed. But before enjoying it," he says, "you must tell me my next job." And he says, "Your first job is to build boundary walls and mark all of my sites." And the genie clapped his hands. And he said, "All of your sites have been enclosed, sir. Now tell me the next job." And the man said, "You really are a wish-fulfilling genie." He said, "I'm so happy to have you." He says, "Your next job is to create buildings on all these sites." The genie clapped his hands again. He said, "It is done, my master. The factories, the theater halls, the swimming pool, and markets are all crowded with people." "Fantastic," said the merchant. He says, "Now I want you to make me king of the world. Build me a palace, organize a coronation, and invite all the important people. Bring poets and musicians, and let the dancers dance and the entertainers entertain." The genie clapped his hands again. And he said, "You've been accepted as the solemn monarch of planet Earth. Your crown is right here. Dress yourself up and enjoy being the most powerful and important person on planet Earth. But before you leave," he says, "please tell me my next job." And the merchant became numb because all of his desires were already fulfilled. And suddenly he remembered the merchant's warning that if you could not keep this genie employed, everything that he'd achieved so far would be destroyed. And so drops of perspiration start dripping down the man's forehead. And he said, "Only one person can possibly help me." And then he commanded his genie. He said, "Genie, before I become the emperor of planet Earth, I would like to get the blessings of my spiritual teacher." He says, "Please take me to the Holy One's cave in the Himalayas." The genie clapped his hands, and he was there. And he says, "Bless me, Holy One, bless me." He said, "I'm in great trouble. I bought a wish-fulfilling genie this morning, and all of my desires got fulfilled. But I bought this genie on one condition, that I had to keep him engaged or he would destroy what he has created, and now I don't know what to do with him." And the Holy One was sitting naked on a straw mat, and he greeted the merchant with a radiant smile. He says, "Don't worry, my son. It is very easy. How to provide this genie with a never-ending job." He says, "But first, relax." The man said, "I can't relax." He said, "I'm agitated, I'm anxious, I'm excited, I'm terribly disturbed and afraid." He said, "Save me." He said, "Listen carefully, my child. Ask the genie to bring the biggest bamboo pole he can get. Then order him to plant it inside the ground very firmly and very tight. And after the pole is firmly fixed in the ground, ask the genie to climb up and down the pole until further orders." He says, "This will keep him busy and you will enjoy your life undisturbed and fearlessly." And the man said, "How stupid I am that I couldn't think of such a simple solution." And the Holy One said, "When one is obsessed by fear and anxiety, one cannot think of such simple solutions." He says, "First you were blinded by your ambition, then you bought a genie. And when the genie became too fast in fulfilling your desires, you got scared by the speed at which he carried out your orders. Then you got nervous by the imaginary fear of destruction. Go now and feel free." The Holy One paused for a moment. He said, "But before you go, know this. I too have a genie, and I too have a pole for it." And then he opened his hands and showed the merchants his prayer beads. But really this story is about our lives and what it is to be an adult spinning in a whirl. And indeed, we all have a genie, because the genie is the desire for achievement. It is the hope for popularity. It is the thirst for opportunity. And it is the hunger for excitement. And the genie is also a gaping need for success and for adulation and for exhausting irrepressibility. The genie, you see, is inside of all of us. But the most difficult of all is the fact that before it's all over, only we ourselves can tame the genie. And we tame our genie by knowing our boundaries, defining them early, and by submitting our desires to God. Because you've got to make room in the present for the things of the eternal. And I want you to know that being busy is not the real enemy, because there are a lot of people who are happy and fulfilled, and they are always busy growing and giving and becoming and being and doing what it is that they are here on earth to be and to do. It is not busyness that destroys us. It is simply being perpetually busy with things that only scatter us rather than deepen us. And so this is what makes the difference between doing what you are meant to do and then doing everything that you can do. So I want to admonish you that you don't dilute your effectiveness by trying to do too much. But we have to learn to tie our genie to what we are meant to be and to do, and not to everything that's on the horizon that could be done. You got to learn how to tie this genie. This genie is really your ambition that is out of control. Don't let ambition replace your passion. The word ambition means to be eager or to have a strong desire to achieve something such as fame or power. It actually comes from the Latin word ambire, which literally means to go around for votes. That's why people have political aspirations. The word ambition literally comes from a word that means to go around for votes, because there's somebody who's hungry for position and power. But I encourage you that before you spring into action, withdraw into prayer and into reflective thinking. Respond, don't react. The Bible reminds us of this very simple thing in Philippians chapter 4, verse 6 and 7. Be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving let your requests be made known unto God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. I want to read that same passage in the contemporary English version. It says, don't worry about anything, but pray about everything. With thankful hearts, offer up your prayers and requests to God. Then, because you belong to Christ Jesus, God will bless you with peace that no one can completely understand. And this peace will control the way you think and feel. And then the Message Bible puts it this way: don't fret or worry. Instead of worrying, pray. Let petitions and praises shape your worries into prayers, letting God know your concerns. Before you know it, a sense of God's wholeness, everything coming together for good, will come and settle you down. It's wonderful what happens when Christ displaces worry at the center of your life. And you will learn that God often changes you before he changes circumstances around you. So have patience and be responsive to his grace and become a new person and grow to a brand new level. But I want you to just think about this thing and what's driving you. Are you always trying to do stuff to be accepted? May I just tell you that in the economy of God, the agape love of God is unconditional, meaning that it is not based on anything that you do. God says, I've already made a decision, not emotionally, because emotional things are fickle. He said, I have made a decision to love you in spite of you. That there's nothing that you can say, do, or become that would make me fall out of love with you. I might not like what you do, but I'll always love you. I'll always love you. And I don't know how many people that have had burnout and who have nervous disorders and they don't rest well at night, and they've got digestive things going on in their stomach and nervous tics, and and all kinds of stuff going on, because the genie is always, as soon as it finishes one thing, it's got to run to something else. And there's an absence of peace, and they keep on struggling, trying to work everything out in their ambition, going around trying to get votes, trying to get other people to validate them, trying to do enough to be accepted, to get in the clique. But listen, I would rather be hated for who I am than to be accepted for who I am not. And there's a little genie that keeps on trying to push you and push you and push you and push you and push you. And that ambition can be a real selfish thing. The word ambition in its overall approach is a negative word, because it deals with excessive desire. Excessive. But God will put a vision in you that will stretch you. He'll put a dream in you that will stretch you. But yet when you're in the will of God, there's a peace that passes all understanding. And God, it'll guard your heart and your mind. And you can be in the worst storm of your life. May I remind you that when Jesus was with his disciples on a ship and they were in a storm, and Jesus was down in the inner parts of the ship fast asleep. And they went to the master and woke him up and said, "Carest not that we perish?" Jesus, are you even worried that we're in a storm and maybe our lives are about to be lost? And they're like, "Master, how in the world can you sleep at a time like this?" But the revelation of it is this, is that because Jesus had no storm in him, he was able to sleep in the storm. And as long as you don't have storm in you, you can be in a storm, but as long as a storm is not in you, you'll be able to rest and have a peace that passes all understanding. There'll be other people dealing with the same challenges that you're dealing with, and they're on Prozac and all kind of stuff and got psychiatrists, and if you need that, that's your business. But I'm just here to tell you that there's a place in God. There is a place. There is always an alternative. There's always an alternative. There's always an alternative. Don't ever let anybody think that there's only one way to skin a cat. There is an alternative. There's more than one way. The way that you might be choosing to deal with your problems and to anesthetize your pain, there is a better way.
Thank you for watching Power for Living with Bishop Dale C. Bronner. Join us again next time for Power for Living.